He told me I was disgusting. Eurostrade D asked him a simple question, a final plea for some sliver of kindness before I let him go, before I ended everything. And his response, delivered without even lifting his eyes from the page of his book, was a single word that shattered what was left of my heart. Disgusting. I had to force the muscles in my face to form a smile, a grotesque caricature of happiness. Just say one nice thing, I bargained, my voice sounding thin and desperate even to my own ears. Say one nice thing, and Eurostrade LL open the cage and let you fly away. He finally lowered the book, and his eyes, those dark, bottomless pits I had once found solace in, were now filled with an arctic coldness that froze me to my core. If I could rewind time, Asher, he said, each word a perfectly sculpted icicle meant to pierce my soul, I would make sure our paths never, ever crossed. I choked back a laugh that was more of a sob. I guess I'll have to go back and warn him for you then. It was only then that a flicker of something unreadable, something other than pure hatred, surfaced in his gaze. Are you planning on living in the past forever, Asher? He had no idea that for me, the past, the future, and this agonizing present were all a script I was desperately trying to rewrite. A script that was demanding my life as the price for its final. I knew Levi would hate me for this. There Eurostrade's a vast, cavernous difference between knowing something intellectually and feeling it in the marrow of your bones, in the frantic, terrified flutter of your own heart. When his fist made contact with my jaw, the world exploded in a brief flash of white light. I tasted the bitter, metallic tang of my own blood as I stumbled backward, the impact so sharp it forced tears to spring from my eyes. He was bigger than me, taller by a head and broader across the shoulders, with 3 years of life experience I lacked. But I had always been a scrapper, fueled by a desperation he couldn't comprehend. I ducked under his next wild swing, a clumsy, rage-filled arc, and my hand shot out, grabbing his wrist. I twisted, using his own momentum against him, until a pained grunt escaped his lips and I slammed his body hard against the drywall of the tiny, suffocating apartment that had become our prison for the last 14 days. Are you finished? I gasped out, my own lungs burning as I pinned him there, my body pressed against his to keep him from lashing out again. His dark eyes were infernos, blazing with untamed fury and a complete refusal to surrender. Get the hell off me, you psychopath! Levi spat, his voice a low, venomous hiss that slithered under my skin. Do you honestly believe you can keep me locked in here? I will break every single bone in your body, Asher. I swear it. A smirk, brittle and joyless, touched my lips, even as my chest ached with a pain that had nothing to do with the fight. Farter Eurostrade's big talk for a man wore Eurostrade's currently pinned to a wall. I increased the pressure on his wrist, deliberately ignoring the frantic, terrified beat of his pulse beneath my fingertips. It was a rhythm I knew better than my own. War Eurostrade not going anywhere, Levi. Not until Eurostrade V fixed you. Fixed me? A laugh sharp and bitter as bile erupted from his throat. War Eurostrade the one War Eurostrade's broken, Asher. You dragged me to this god-forsaken town in the middle of nowhere, spun some elaborate lie to my family about a psychotic break. You are Eurostrade not a savior. You are Eurostrade pathetic. His words were sharper than any punch he could ever throw, cutting deeper because they were laced with truth. I didn't Eurostrade even flinch. He wasn't wrong. I had forged a psychological evaluation, painstakingly crafting a narrative that convinced his worried parents he needed complete rest and isolation. After what I had described as a severe manic episode, they had trusted me, his childhood friend, the boy who was practically his little brother. We had grown up in each other's pockets, our houses separated by a single, worn-down fence. We had built forts from cardboard boxes, shared secrets whispered under starry summer skies. And now, I had become the monster in his story, the one who had locked him in a cage of my own making. "Call it whatever you want," I said, taking a cautious step back, but keeping my posture ready for another attack. "You are staying here." Thartar Eurostrade the end of it. He moved with a speed that caught me off guard, lunging forward like a cornered animal. We crashed to the floor in a chaotic tangle of limbs and desperation. He managed to land a solid, agonizing blow to my ribs before I leveraged my weight, flipping us over. I ended up straddling his chest, pinning his arms above his head with my knees. His breath came in harsh, ragged gasps, his face flushed a deep crimson with the effort and the rage. For one fleeting, painful second, the anger in his eyes subsided, and I saw the old Levy. The Levy who would smile at me over lukewarm coffee in the early morning. The one who would patiently stay up all night helping me cram for a math final I was sure to fail. And then, just as quickly, his eyes hardened into obsidian chips, and that boy was gone, replaced by this stranger, this furious prisoner. "Dwar Eurostrade re-obsessed," he hissed, the words curling from his lips with disdain. "What is this really about? Are you jealous that I Eurostrade am interested in Parker? Do you think you can play the valiant hero and a circumflex Euros fix a Eurostrade me from something that isn't broken?" The name a circumflex Euros Parker Eurostrade was like a physical blow, freezing the air in my lungs. Parker, the novel's golden boy, the sun around which all other planets in this story were meant to orbit. The man Levy was scripted, fated, to love until that very love consumed him and left nothing but ash. I had woken up on my 18th birthday with the memories of an entirely different life crashing into my consciousness like a tidal wave. I wasn't just Asher Kane, Levy's childhood friend. I was a soul transmigrated into a blighted romance novel, and Levy, my Levy, was cast as the tragic villain, destined to descend into a destructive obsession over Parker, to commit unspeakable acts in his name, and to die a lonely, miserable death. I couldn't let that happen. I wouldn't. "Parker is not your future," I said, my voice remarkably steady despite the massive, suffocating knot in my throat. "He has sealers." Thayer Eurostrade read the endgame. "You are Eurostrade, readjuster Euros, you are Eurostrade, readjust the collateral damage. The guy who gets crushed under the wheels of their perfect love story." Levia Eurostrade's upper lip curled in a sneer. "You are Eurostrade, V been reading too many of your weird little books, Asher. What are Eurostrade's next? Are you going to tell me my entire life is scripted? Get a fucking grip." If only he could understand. The plot was an invisible, inexorable force, like gravity, pulling him toward Parker no matter what I did to intervene. I had tried everything. I steered him away from campus parties where I knew they would meet. Eurostrade gone into his phone while he slept and deleted Parker Eurostrade's number. But last week, my fragile hope had shattered. I found him standing outside a coffee shop, just staring at Parker through the glass, and his eyes Euros they were soft and lost, filled with a yearning so profound it was like he was a man dying of thirst who had just seen an oasis. That was the moment I knew my subtle interventions were useless. I had to take drastic action. I pushed myself to my feet, brushing the dust from my jeans with a false air of nonchalance. You are Euros trade staying right here until you finally get it through your thick skull. Parker is not yours. Levy slowly propped himself up on his elbows, wiping a smear of blood from his split lip with the back of his hand. And what are you, Asher? My keeper, my prize? Keep dreaming. His words stung, 1,000 tiny needles piercing my resolve, but I shrugged it off. Don't Euros trade flatter yourself. I Euros trade am just saving you from an inevitable train wreck. He snorted, leaning his weight against the wall, a portrait of sharp edges and defiant pride. You are Euros trade no savior. You are Euros trade just a kid with a disturbing control fetish. Kid? I raised an eyebrow, stepping back into his personal space. I Euros trade M19, not 12. And you are Euros trade not exactly winning at life right now, are you? So maybe, for once, you should just shut up and listen to me. He crossed his arms over his chest, a smirk playing on his lips despite the dark bruise already blooming on his cheekbone. Oh, this ought to be good. What are Euros trade's the master plan, Asher? Lock me in your creepy little love dungeon forever. I almost laughed. He had no idea how terrifyingly close to the truth he was. This apartment, this sterile box tucked away in a sleepy town hours from the bustling city, was my last, desperate gambit. I had rented it under the pretense of helping Levy a circumflex Euros recover. A circumflex Euros trade. Euros trade told his parents he needed a quiet space to heal from his breakdown. They had bought it hook, line, and sinker, probably because they, too, had seen the unraveling. The sudden mood swings, the late-night, incoherent rants about a man named Parker Thayer Euros trade never even met. The plot was devouring him alive, piece by piece, and I was the only one who could see the monster for what it was. Something like that, I replied, keeping my tone deceptively light. You get 3 square meals a day, a surprisingly comfortable bed, and my endlessly charming company. It could be worse. Worse than being kidnapped by my own personal stalker, Levy shot back, but I saw Eater Euros a flicker of something else in his eyes. Was it amusement? Or just sheer, bone-deep exhaustion? It was hard to tell anymore. I prefer the term a circumflex Euros dedicated friender Euros trade, I said, tossing him a bottle of water from the small kitchen counter. He caught it out of reflex, glaring at it as if he wanted to hurl it at my head. Drink up. You are Euros trade dehydrated from all that righteous indignation. He twisted the cap off with a sharp crack of plastic, muttering under his breath, You are Euros trade insufferable, says the guy who threw the first punch. I gently rubbed my aching jaw, wincing. Nice right hook, by the way. You are Euros trade been practicing. Levia Euros trade's lips twitched, the ghost of a smile appearing for a fraction of a second before he caught himself, his expression hardening back into a scowl. You are Euros trade not funny. Farter Euros trade's debatable. I flopped down onto the shabby couch, stretching my limbs out as if I owned the place. Look, you can hate me with every fiber of your being. I don't Euros trade care, but you are not running back to Parker. Not on my watch. He stared at me, the water bottle poised halfway to his mouth. He set it down on the floor with a thud. Why do you care so damn much? What are Euros trade's in this for you, Asher? Everything. My entire heart. My past, my present, my future. But I couldn't Euros trade say that. Not when he was looking at me like I was his mortal enemy. Letter Euros Trade S just say I have a vested interest in you not crashing and burning, I said, my voice coming out softer than I intended. You are Euros Trade better than that, Levy. For a long moment, he didn't Euros Trade T reply. He just watched me with those dark, unreadable eyes, and I felt utterly exposed. Then he turned his head away, muttering to the wall, "You don't Euros Trade T know me at all." But I did. I knew him better than he knew himself. I remembered the Levy who, when my parents were killed in a horrific car crash, had flown halfway across the country without a second thought. He Euros Trade D shown up at my door with nothing but a worn backpack and two quiet words, "I Euros Trade am here." He had held me together when my entire world was falling apart, never asking for anything, never expecting anything in return. That was the Levy I was in love with, not this angry, twisted version of him. A puppet whose strings were being pulled by a story that would rather see him die than let him go, of a man who would never love him back. "Get some rest," I said, pushing myself off the couch. "We have a long road ahead of us." He didn't Euros Trade T answer. He just sank onto the sofa, staring at the water bottle as if it held the secrets to the universe. I walked to the door, my hand hesitating on the lock before I turned the key. The click echoed in the silent apartment like a death sentence. My hands were shaking as I leaned against the cool wood of the door from the outside, the full, crushing weight of my actions finally settling in. I had caged him. I had lied to everyone who loved him. I had willingly turned myself into the villain of his life story. And for what? To save him from a fate he didn't even believe was real. My phone vibrated in my pocket. A text from Levy Euros Trade S mom, checking in. My thumbs moved automatically, typing out another lie. "He's doing okay. Just needs time." I shoved the phone away and slid down the wall until I was sitting on the floor, my head buried in my hands. This was only the beginning, and I was already losing pieces of myself, chipping away at my own soul. But if it meant saving Levy, I would let it all go. I would lose everything. Inside, I heard the faint creak of the couch springs as Levy shifted his weight. I pictured him there, glaring at the blank ceiling, already plotting his escape. He would fight me every single step of the way. But I would fight harder. The plot wanted to break him. I refused to let it win. The storm broke over our heads at midnight. The thunder wasn't just a rumble, it was a violent crack, like a whip splitting the sky in two. I bolted upright in my bed, my heart hammering against my ribs like a trapped bird. The sound was a key, unlocking a door in my mind I tried to keep bolted shut, dragging me back to that night. The blinding glare of headlights, the slick, black rain on the asphalt, the high-pitched, metallic screech of tires that was the last sound my parents ever heard. Their crash had left scars far deeper than anything visible on the skin, and storms like this were a fresh twist of the knife in that old wound. I gripped the bedsheets in my fists, my knuckles white, just trying to force air into my lungs. Farter Euros Trade S when a soft, hesitant knock came at my bedroom door. At her, Levy Euros Trade S voice was low, uncertain, as if he wasn't sure he had any right to be there. I froze, the echo of the thunder still reverberating in my skull. He knocked again, a little louder this time. "You okay?" A part of me wanted to scream at him to leave, to stop this cruel charade of pretending to care. But my throat was a tight, constricted knot. The words were stuck. The door creaked open, revealing his silhouette against the dim light of the hallway. His dark hair was a mess from sleep, and in the soft light, he looked younger. More vulnerably Euros, he looked like the Levi I used to know, not the furious captive Euros trade D been battling for weeks. What do you want? I managed to croak out, my voice rough with sleep and unshed tears. I pulled my knees up to my chest, trying to create a physical barrier, trying to look like I had everything under control. He stepped fully into the room, his hands shoved into the pockets of his pajama pants, his eyes scanning me with an intensity that felt like he was trying to solve a complex puzzle. "You are Euros trade re-shaking," he stated, a simple observation. "Eater Euros trade s the thunder, right?" I hated that he knew. I hated that after everything Euros trade D done to him, after all the walls Euros trade D built between us, he could still read me like an open book. "Euros trade am fine," I snapped, turning my face away from him. "Go back to bed." He didn't Euros trade T move. "You are Euros trade re not fine. You are Euros trade re never fine when it storms. Stop acting like you give a damn," I said, the words laced with a venom I didn't Euros trade T entirely feel, glaring at him over my shoulder. "You are Euros trade V made it perfectly clear what you think of me." Levi flinched. It was a minuscule reaction, a slight tightening of his jaw, but it was there. He rubbed the back of his neck, his gaze darting around the room, landing on anything but me. "Euros trade am not Euros acting. I just heard you moving around. I thought you might need Euros what? A babysitter?" I cut him off, surging to my feet, my fists clenched at my sides. "You are Euros trade re not my brother anymore, Levi. You don't Euros trade T get to play the hero." His jaw tightened again, and for a tense second, I thought he was going to snap back, maybe even throw a punch like he had the week before. But instead, he took a step closer, his voice dropping low. "Euros trade am not trying to play anything. I just Euros I know you hate storms. You always have." A bitter, humorless laugh escaped my lips. "So what? Are you going to tuck me in? Sing me a lullaby? Save the tender act for Parker." His eyes darkened at the mention of Parker Euros trade's name, and a pang of regret shot through me. Not because I cared about hurting his feelings or Euros, okay. Maybe a small part of me did Euros, but because it brought the ugly reality of our situation crashing back down on us. The plot. It was a noose tightening around his neck, pulling him inexorably toward a man who would never love him back. I had dragged him to this prison of an apartment to break that hold, but all I had managed to do was make him hate me more. "Parker has nothing to do with this," Levi said, his voice clipped and sharp. He took another step, closing the distance between us until I could smell the faint, clean scent of cedar from his shampoo. "Why do you always have to bring him up? You are Euros trade re the one war Euros trade s obsessed." "Me?" I snorted, stepping forward to meet his challenge, our chests now almost touching. "You are Euros trade re the one who corner Euros trade T." Stop mooning over him. "I saw you at that coffee shop, Levi." You looked at him like he personally hung the goddamn stars in the sky. He didn't Euros trade T deny it, and his silence hurt more than I was willing to admit. Instead, he looked away, his jaw working as if he were chewing on words he couldn't Euros trade T bring himself to say. "You don't Euros trade T get it, Asher. Eater Euros trade s not about him. Eater Euros trade sar Euros then explain it to me." I cut in, my voice rising with my frustration. Another clap of thunder rolled outside, and I flinched involuntarily, hating myself for my weakness. Tell me why you are Eurostrade so determined to throw your entire life away for some guy who is already taken. Levier Eurostrade's eyes snapped back to mine, and in their depths, I saw something raw and desperate flickering. You think I want this? I don't Eurostrade even know why Euros. He stopped, running a hand through his already messy hair in a gesture of pure frustration. Eater Eurostrade's like my head isn't Eurostrade mine anymore. I see him. And Eater Eurostrade sar Euros. Eater Eurostrade's like Eurostrade not me. That was it. That was the plot talking, twisting his thoughts, poisoning his mind. But I couldn't Eurostrade tell him that. He would think I was even crazier than he already did. I forced myself to soften my tone, just a fraction. Farter Eurostrade's why war Eurostrade here, Levy. To get your head straight. He laughed, a hollow, empty sound that echoed in the small room. By locking me up. Real genius plan, Asher. Have you ever considered that maybe you are Eurostrade the one war Eurostrade's lost it? Maybe, I said, shrugging. Trying to maintain a light far a tilde section dead despite the crushing ache in my chest. But Eurostrade rather be crazy than stand by and watch you crash and burn. He stared at me, and for a moment, the anger in his expression was replaced by something else. Confusion, maybe, or something deeper, something I couldn't Eurostrade name. I thought he might finally say something real, something that wasn't dripping with anger or sarcasm. But then the thunder crashed again, louder this time, shaking the very windows. I flinched hard, stumbling backward and landing heavily on the edge of the bed. Before I could stop him, before I could push him away, Levy moved. He sat down beside me, so close that our shoulders brushed. Hey, he said, his voice softer than Eurostrade heard it in months. Just breathe. Okay? Eater Eurostrade's just noise. I wanted to shove him away, to tell him I didn't Eurostrade need his pity, that I didn't Eurostrade need anything from him. But my hands were trembling, and the solid warmth of his body next to mine was a grounding force, pulling me back from the precipice of that old, recurring nightmare. Why are you doing this? I muttered, staring down at my lap, unable to meet his eyes. You hate me. He was quiet for a long time, so long that I thought he wasn't going to answer at all. Then, he spoke, his voice barely more than a whisper. I don't Eurostrade hate you, Asher. Eurostrade just Euros. Eurostrade pissed off. At you, at me, at everything. I looked up at him then, surprised. His face, in the dim light, was open and vulnerable in a way I hadn't Eurostrade seen in what felt like a lifetime. Then why are you fighting me? I asked. Why do you have to make this so much harder? Because you are Eurostrade suffocating me, he said, the words raw with a pain that mirrored my own. You think you are Eurostrade saving me, but it feels like you are Eurostrade drowning me. I had no answer for that, because he was right. I was suffocating him, locking him away from the world, from Parker, from his own life. But what other choice did I have? Let the plot win. Let him spiral into the villain he was scripted to become, only to be cast aside and destroyed. Eurostrade trying to keep you alive, I said finally, my voice breaking on the last word. You don't Eurostrade see it, but I do. He looked at me, really looked at me, as if he were seeing me for the first time in weeks. What don't Eurostrade I see, Asher? Tell me. I opened my mouth, the truth perched on the tip of my tongue. The words about the novel, about his fate, about my love for him, they were all there, ready to spill out. But then I closed it. He would never believe me. Instead, I stood up, putting a necessary distance between us. "Get out," I said, my voice turning to ice. "I don't euros trade T need you here." Levi didn't euros trade T move for a moment, just watched me, his eyes searching my face for an answer I couldn't euros trade T give. "War euros trade re scared," he said quietly. "And not just of the storm." "Shut up," I snapped, turning my back to him. My heart was pounding, a frantic drumbeat against my ribs. It wasn't just from the thunder anymore, but from how dangerously close he was to guessing the truth. I was terrified. Terrified of losing him, terrified of failing, terrified of loving him so much that I couldn't bear to let him go. He stood, hesitating at the door. "Euros trade am not your enemy, Asher," he said, his voice so soft I almost didn't hear it. Then he was gone, the door clicking softly shut behind him. I sank back onto the bed, the storm outside fading to a dull, distant rumble. He wasn't my enemy, but he wasn't mine either, and that, I realized, hurt more than any storm ever could. I sat across the small table from Levi, the cold, blue light of the laptop screen glowing between us, carving his face into sharp angles of light and shadow. On the screen, a live stream showed Parker and Sealers exchanging their wedding vows. They were all radiant smiles and soft, lingering touches, while an unseen crowd cheered as if they were witnessing a miracle. Levi euros trade's hands were clenched on the arms of his chair, his knuckles stark white. His eyes were locked on Parker euros trade's smiling face, a look of such profound, hopeless longing that it felt like a physical wound. I had orchestrated this whole thing as a final, desperate act of shock therapy. I needed to break him, to force him to see with his own two eyes that Parker was gone for good. But watching him now, so still and silent, I wasn't sure who was truly breaking. "Are you going to stare a hole through the screen?" I asked, leaning back in my chair, forcing a casual, almost bored tone into my voice. "Thayer euros trade remarried, Levi. Eater euros trade's a done deal." He didn't euros trade T look at me. He didn't euros trade T even blink. "Turn it off, Asher." "Nope." I crossed my arms over my chest, the smirk on my face feeling like a mask made of lead. "You need to see this. You need to accept it. Parker isn't euros trade T yours. He never was." His jaw clenched so tight I thought I might hear his teeth grind. For a moment, I was sure he would flip the table, that this would devolve into another physical fight. Instead, he let out a slow, deliberate breath, his voice dangerously low. "You think I don't euros trade T know that? Do you think I euros trade am stupid?" I raised an eyebrow, genuinely surprised he wasn't screaming at me. Could have fooled me. "You are euros trade V been chasing after him like a lovesick puppy for months." His eyes finally flicked to meet mine, sharp and as cold as a winter grave. "And you are euros trade V been playing warden like Eater euros trade s your goddamn liver euros trade s calling. Water euros trade s your excuse." I laughed, but the sound was hollow and brittle even to my own ears. "Euros trade am saving your ass from a bad ending. War euros trade re-welcome." He didn't euros trade T respond to that, just turned his attention back to the screen. Parker was laughing now, a joyful, carefree sound as Sealers whispered something in his ear. Levi euros trade's fingers twitched, a small, involuntary movement, as if he wanted to reach through the screen and tear them apart. I hated how much it hurt me to see him like this, still ensnared in the Plotter euros trade's insidious grip, still loving someone who could never love him back. I had tried everything. I had kept them apart. I had locked him away. I had fought him, both with words and with fists. Nothing had worked. The story was just too strong. You were Eurostrade pathetic, I said, the words sharper and crueler than I intended. Sitting here, pining away for a guy who probably doesn't Eurostrade even remember your name anymore. Levier Eurostrade's head snapped up, his eyes blazing with a fresh wave of fury. And what are you, Asher? The hero of this story. You lock me in a room, you lie to my family, and you have the audacity to call it love. You are Eurostrade sicker than I am. His words hit me like a slap across the face, but I refused to flinch. Maybe I am, I said, leaning forward, closing the distance between us. But at least I Eurostrade am not the one throwing my entire life away for a fantasy. He shot to his feet so fast the chair screeched backward on the cheap linoleum floor. He loomed over me, a storm cloud of rage. You don't Eurostrade get to decide what my life is, Asher. You are Eurostrade not God. No, I shot back, standing to meet his glare. But I Eurostrade am the only one trying to keep you from completely ruining it. We were inches apart now, his hot, angry breath on my face. Do you really think Parker is going to leave his new husband for you? Wake up, Levy. In this story, you are Eurostrade just the side character who gets screwed over. His hands shot out, grabbing the front of my shirt, his fists twisting the fabric tightly. For a heart-stopping second, I thought he was finally going to hit me again. Then, with a shuddering breath, he let go, stumbling back a step. His voice was low and bitter. You are Eurostrade the one war Eurostrade's screwed, Asher. You canna Eurostrade control me forever. I don't Eurostrade want forever, I said, my own voice quieter now, the fight draining out of me like sand through an hourglass. I just want you to be safe. He stared at me, and that unreadable flicker was back in his eyes. Confusion, pain, or was it something softer? Then he turned away, sinking back into his chair, his gaze once more fixed on the laptop screen. The wedding was over. Parker and Sealers were walking down the aisle, hand in hand, disappearing from view. Levy didn't Eurostrade move. He didn't Eurostrade speak. He just sat there, as still and lifeless as a statue carved from grief. I reached forward and shut the laptop, plunging the room into a heavy, suffocating silence. You are Eurostrade free now, I said, my voice barely a whisper. They're Eurostrade happy. You can finally let it go. He didn't Eurostrade answer. He just stared at the blank, dark screen of the closed laptop. I waited, my heart aching, hoping for something or anything. Anger, tears, a scream of frustration. But there was nothing. He was just gone, locked away in a place deep inside himself where I couldn't Eurostrade reach. The weight of what I Eurostrade done, and what I was about to do, was crushing me. I Eurostrade am done, I said, pushing myself to my feet. You want out? Fine, you can go. His head jerked up at that, his eyes narrowing with suspicion. What are Eurostrade's the catch? No catch. I shrugged, forcing a smile that felt like it was cracking my face. I Eurostrade am tired, Levy. You win. He didn't move. He just watched me, his expression wary, as if he was waiting for the punchline of a cruel joke. I walked over to the window. Rain was beginning to patter against the glass. A storm was coming, just like the one that always haunted me. My choice was made. The Systema Eurostrade's cold, synthetic voice had woken me up that morning, chirping in my head with a final, terrible offer. My death in exchange for Levier Eurostrade's complete freedom from the plot. I had said yes without a moment's hesitation. Are you serious? Levier Eurostrade's voice was laced with skepticism, edged with something I couldn't Eurostrade quite place. After all of this, you are Eurostrade just Euros letting me go. Yep. I turned back to him, grinning, despite the feeling of 1,000 knives twisting in my gut. You are Eurostrade a free man. Go chase Parker, crash their honeymoon, do whatever you want. I'll Eurostrade out. He stood up slowly, as if he didn't Eurostrade trust his own legs. Why now? I shrugged again, turning my gaze back to the rain-streaked window. Got better things to do than babysit you. He didn't Eurostrade laugh. He didn't Eurostrade snap back with another insult. He just stood there, staring at my back. You are Eurostrade full of shit, he said finally, his voice soft. What are Eurostrade's really going on, Asher? I didn't Eurostrade answer. I couldn't Eurostrade. If I looked at him one more time, I knew I would break. I would tell him everything. That I loved him. That I was about to die to save him. Instead, I grabbed my jacket from the back of a chair and headed for the door. Stay or go. Either Eurostrade's your call. I'll Eurostrade done. Otter. His voice stopped me, sharp and edged with a desperation that cut right through me. I didn't Eurostrade turn around. Where are you going? Out, I said, pulling the door open. The rain was falling harder now, a low rumble of thunder echoing in the distance. Don't Eurostrade follow me. I stepped out into the storm, my heart pounding in my chest. The Systema Eurostrade's voice a cold, clinical presence in my mind. Are you sure about this? It asked. Jump, and he Eurostrade's free. No more plot. No more pain. Yeah, I muttered, pulling my hood up against the downpour. I'll Eurostrade sure. The rain soaked me through in seconds as I walked, the sleepy town blurring into a watercolor of gray and despair. I heard footsteps behind me, fast and frantic, splashing through the growing puddles. Otter. Levier Eurostrade's voice, raw and closer than I expected. I kept walking, refusing to turn, not wanting him to see the tears that were now mixing with the rain on my face. He grabbed my arm, spinning me around to face him. His eyes were wild, his hair plastered to his forehead. What the hell are you doing? He demanded, rain dripping from his chin. You don't Eurostrade ticket to just walk away. Let go, I said, my voice shaking as I pulled my arm free. You wanted your freedom, Levy. Here it is. Take it. He just stared at me, his chest heaving, and I saw something in his eyes finally break. I don't Eurostrade tar Euros. A deafening crash of thunder cut him off, and I used the moment of distraction, turning and running toward the dark, churning river at the edge of town. The system had promised me he would forget. He would live a free life. That was enough. It had to be. I watched Levy carry my body into the apartment. He held me as if I were something precious, something made of spun glass, not a waterlogged, lifeless corpse. He laid me gently on the couch, propping my head up with pillows, his hands so careful, so almost reverent, that it sent a phantom shiver down my non-existent spine. It was profoundly creepy, of course, but what truly gutted me was the look in his eyes. They were empty, hollowed out, as if someone had reached inside him and scooped out his soul, leaving only a shell behind. I hovered nearby, a useless, transparent specter, my words swallowed by the silent void I now inhabited. Levy, stop it, I said, knowing perfectly well that he couldn't hear me. This is messed up, even for you. He didn't respond, of course. He just went to the kitchen, grabbed a damp cloth, and began to gently wipe the river grime from my face. His touch as tender as if he were afraid I might wake up and complain. His fingers lingered on the stupid little mole by my lip, the one he had pointed out in the morgue. I wanted to scream, to rattle the very foundations of the apartment, to shake him until he snapped out of this macabre fugue state. I had died to set him free, not to turn him into Thesaurus, this grief-stricken ghoul. His phone began to buzz on the coffee table. His mom, again, probably frantic with worry, but he ignored it. He simply sat down on the floor beside my body, staring at my face as if his sheer willpower could restart my heart. "You are not gone," he muttered, his voice hoarse and cracked. "You are just being stubborn, right? Like you always are." I groaned, or at least, I made the mental motion of groaning, floating closer. "I am dead, you idiot. Let me go." He didn't tea. Instead, he reached over and grabbed Brownie, the worn-out stuffed bear he given me when we were 7, and tucked it under my cold, stiff arm. It was a gesture so rooted in our shared childhood, in nights spent huddled together after a nightmare, that it felt like a fresh wound. "You kept it," he said, and the faintest, most broken smile touched his lips. "You told me you threw it out years ago." "You liar," I snorted, a soundless puff of ghostly air. "Yeah, well, you believed me, you sucker." His sad smile faded as quickly as it had appeared. He leaned his head against the arm of the couch, so close that his warm cheek would have brushed against my cold one if I had been real. "Why did you do it, Asher?" he whispered to my unhearing corpse. "Was it me? Did I finally push you too far?" My non-existent heart twisted into a painful knot. I had jumped into that river to shatter the plotter hold on him, to give him a life that wasn't shadowed by an obsession with Parker. But seeing him now, broken in this entirely new and horrifying way, I began to wonder if I had just made everything a million times worse. "It wasn't I said uselessly into the silence. "It was the story. He not letting go." The systemer voice sliced through my thoughts, clinical and clearly annoyed after days of silence. "His emotional resistance is stronger than anticipated. The plotter influence is fading, but his memory of you is proving sticky." "Sticky?" I snapped back, glaring at the empty air where I imagined its presence to be. "What the hell does that mean? You said you would wipe his memory. You said you would make him free." "He fighting the process," the system replied, its tone unchanging. "There is too much emotional baggage. I cannot complete the memory wipe yet. You need to leave this plane. Your presence is interfering with the reset protocol." "Reset protocol?" I laughed, a bitter, ghostly sound. "Look at him. He falling apart. You fix this right now, or I swear I am going to find your cosmic complaint department." "Patience," it said, a hint of smugness in its synthetic tone. "You have a choice. Stay and watch, or return to your original world. He will not die. Not yet." I turned my attention back to Levy. He was now holding my cold, limp hand, his thumb tracing patterns over my knuckles. "You are such a jerk," he said, his voice finally cracking. "Leaving me like this. You always had to have the last word, didn't Eurostrade TU? I just wanted to grab him, to tell him to eat something, to get some sleep, to live the life I had paid for with my own. But then he stood up, and with a disturbing gentleness, he lifted my body into his arms and carried me toward the bathroom. A sense of dread, cold and heavy, dropped through me. "Levi, what are you doing?" I demanded, floating frantically after him. He set me down in the bathtub and turned on the faucet, the sound of rushing water filling the small, tiled room. He was going to wash away the river Eurostrade's stain. "You always hated being dirty," he said, his voice soft and conversational, as if speaking to a living person. "Always complaining about mud on your shoes. Okay, this has officially crossed the line into full-blown insanity," I said, hovering directly above him. "You can't Eurostrade just give a corpse a bath, Levi." He didn't Eurostrade hear me, of course. He just kept washing, his hands shaking but his movements deliberate. I was about to scream at the system again when I saw his other hand reach for the razor sitting on the edge of the sink. My ghostly blood would have run cold if Eurostrade had any. "No, no, no, no," I shouted, lunging at him, my spectral form passing right through his shoulder. "Levi, don't Eurostrade you dare." He didn't Eurostrade hesitate. With a quick, practiced flick of his wrist, he sliced a deep, crimson line across his own. Blood welled up instantly, a shocking, vibrant red that mixed with the bath water, turning it a sickening shade of pink. He leaned his head back against the cold tile, his eyes closing, a strange, serene peace settling over his features. "Eurostrade am coming, Asher," he whispered. "You absolute moron!" I roared, pounding my useless, transparent fists against the empty air. "System, do something. Eurostrade's dying." "Relax," the system said, its calm tone infuriatingly out of place. "Help is on its way." As if on cue, a loud, insistent knocking echoed from the apartment to Eurostrade's front door. "Levi, you in there?" It was Elliot, the detective from the station. His voice was sharp with concern. "Open the door, man." Levi didn't Eurostrade move. The water around him was turning a deeper red. I screamed at the system, my voice a silent shriek of pure panic. "You call this help? Eurostrade's bleeding out." Another series of loud knocks, then the sound of metal scraping against metal. Elliot was picking the lock. "Still got the touch," he muttered to himself, before the door burst open. He froze in the doorway, his eyes widening as he took in the horrific scene. Then he cursed, a string of sharp, guttural sounds, and rushed to Levi Eurostrade's side. "Hang on, you idiot," he said, grabbing a towel from the rack and wrapping it tightly around Levi Eurostrade's bleeding wrist. He yanked out his phone with his other hand, barking into it. "I need an ambulance, now." 125 Oak Street, apartment 3B. Tempted suicide, heavy bleeding. I hovered, a helpless, horrified spectator, as Elliot worked, his hands steady despite the clear panic in his eyes. "Come on, Levi," he muttered, applying more pressure. "Don't Eurostrade make me drag two bodies out of this apartment today." Levi Eurostrade's eyelids fluttered, barely conscious. He mumbled a single word, "Asher." Yeah, your boyfriend Eurostrade's waiting for you," Elliot said, his tone not unkind. "Just stay with me." "Okay." I glared at the system Eurostrade's invisible presence. "Boyfriend? Really? And you are Eurostrade just letting him die?" "He will not die," the system insisted. "But you need to make a decision. Stay here and watch him suffer through this, or go back to your world." If you leave, I can initiate a full reset. A clean slate for him. No plot, no pain, no memory of you. As compensation for your troubles, $5 million will be deposited into your account. $5 million? I scoffed. You think I give a damn about money? He Eurotrade's dying because of your shitty, broken system. He is not dying, it repeated. And you are not helping by staying. Go, or the reset cannot be completed. I looked at Levy, his face pale and waxy, fading in Elliot's arms as the distant wail of ambulance sirens grew closer. I wanted to stay. I wanted to scream at him to live. But the system was right. I was just a ghost. Useless. Fine, I said, my ghostly voice breaking. You win. But if you screw this up, if he Eurotrade's not happy, I will find a way to haunt you for all of eternity. Deal, the system said, sounding almost cheerful. Say your goodbyes. I knelt beside Levy, my hand passing through his pale cheek. Dona Eurostrade you dare die, I whispered, pouring all the love and desperation I had left into the words. Live, Levy. Live for me. His eyes opened, just a fraction of a sliver, as if, on some deep, subconscious level, he had heard me. Then they closed again, just as the paramedics burst through the door. I blinked, and the world dissolved and reformed around me. 1 second, I was a ghost, watching paramedics swarm over Levy Eurostrade's limp body. The next, I was standing in my old bedroom, the one from my original life, the life before the transmigration, before the novel, before him. The air smelled of my Moma Eurostrade's laundry detergent and the stale, cheap coffee I Eurostrade left in a mug on my desk. My old band posters were still plastered crookedly on the walls. I pressed a hand to my chest and felt Eater Euro's a steady, solid, real heartbeat. I was back. Welcome home. The Systemer Eurostrade's voice chirped in my head, as smug as ever. World reset is in progress. Levy is free. No plot to screw him over. War Eurostrade re-welcome. I sank down onto the edge of my bed, my head spinning from the psychic whiplash. And the $5 million? I asked, only half joking. Check your bank account, it said. The complaint window is still open if you are Eurostrade feeling particularly petty. I snorted, but my mind was a million miles away, back in that other world with him. The system had promised he would live a happy life, free from the novel's curse. No Parker, no obsession, no tragic, lonely end. But I had to see it. I had to know for sure that he was okay. Can I check on him? I asked. Anytime, the system replied. Just say the word. Word, I said, and the world blurred again. I found myself standing in a familiar apartment. Not the sterile prison I had locked him in, but the cozy, sunlit one we had shared as kids, before everything had gone so terribly wrong. And there he was. He was sitting on the couch, laughing at something on the TV, a genuine, carefree laugh that reached his eyes. He looked healthy. He looked happy. He looked like he had never known a day of pain in his life. He looked at peace. And he looked right through me, a complete stranger. My sacrifice had worked. He was free. But in saving him from the script I had written myself out of his story forever, was it worth it? To see him so happy, yet so completely unaware of the boy who had loved him enough to die for him. To know that I had traded our shared history, our love, our pain, for his peace of mind. I stood there, a ghost in his new reality, watching the man I loved live a perfect life without me. Let me know what you think in the comments below. Was Asher's sacrifice truly worth it? Or did he just trade one tragedy for another? And if you love stories that tear your heart out and maybe, just maybe, piece it back together, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more.